Hey, Anirudh, great to meet you. Welcome to Block Chai. We just kind of chill out and talk about blockchain and have a drink, but virtually, I guess. You can choose your favorite beverage, but great. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much, Rahul, for having me. Great to meet you. And yes, I mean early in the morning, so I'm ready with my coffee as well.
I saw you went to Harvard, which is awesome. So then after you graduated from I know you had the LLM from there. Did you go straight into starting your own firm, or?
Well, no, I didn't. I actually joined an American firm called O'Melveny and started at the Singapore office. And we used to do. I was a transactional lawyer focused on all things Asia. So they had their kind of office in Singapore to look out and to develop the Southeast Asia and South Asia business. With an old friend who was also a lawyer who I had worked with before and studied with before. And we kind of started to bond over the idea of a differentiated law firm. So it so happened that I did not have to actually finally come down to India and spend, just walk around for 6 months. But that was the plan. It didn't translate in that fashion. When I moved back to India, I already had by then a clearer idea that we would set up a law firm.
That's awesome. That's great. And that was 2012 or so, 2013?
Yeah, end of 12. So yeah.
Great. I saw that you helped kind of push through the drone law and things like that. Okay, I'm gonna throw it this way. Forget lawyers. What would be a dream client, right? Who you don't, not a client you have now, but man, that's a really cool entrepreneur. That's a really cool company that I'd love to hack away at or something cool. I am a huge Warren Buffett fan, right? Mm-hmm. It's just in my Twitter. I've got a photo of him. It's just that since I was about 18, that's when I first found out about him. I'm like, God, this guy's really cool. And part of probably why I go through life in a sense is that I don't think exactly like him, but 80% of the stuff I agree with a lot of his principles, right? But one really massive one is different is he thinks Bitcoin is like, this huge, Ponzi scheme, right? And so what's really interesting in a sense is going through life and finding someone who's like, man, this person really gets it. But without a doubt on this one point, like the grandmaster is totally not seeing it, right? And not that I'm saying we're that path, but it's so cool, like seeing all this cool stuff that in the industry. So is there an entrepreneur or a company that you're like, wow, that would be a cool company or entrepreneur to work with?
Yeah, no, I think there are two who come to my mind immediately. One is Elon Musk, and the other is Richard Branson. And there's something. I wonder if you've read the book by Ashley Vance on Elon Musk. It's his biography, where he talks about how everybody in the world is trying to solve incremental problems, right? It is one new app that is, kind of adding incremental value. But he is in the business of helping solve the most challenging problems for humankind, right? That's his grand aspiration. Yeah. And I think that's just so powerful a thought, that really inspires me. Richard Branson, is just, you can learn so much about building a brand from Branson, right? And he is the brand. In fact, the big problem for his enterprise is going to be succession, right? Because he is the brand. How do you replace this guy? But just everything that he does, the way he lives his life somehow kind of seeps into the brand in such an interesting, meaningful way. I think those are the two kind of.
Really. It's really cool. Both those people, like you're saying that that Richard Branson's basically virgin, and I even like very much Elon Musk's Tesla and SpaceX, right? So a lot of these huge founders, they become like, the brand, mastheads or something like that, right? So, what is the firm now? Like, you've grown it from then until now, and, you see, you guys are doing a lot of cool stuff, but like, what does the firm kind of really focus on now?
So we are we are very sharply focused on the technology and innovation-led businesses. That's really what we do. We're about 25 odd professionals, but each focus bringing different kind of sector expertise or different practice area expertise, but focused on technology industries, right? So whether there are some of us who do investments work, venture investment work, there are some of us who do hardcore kind of product development, right? You want to launch a new product, a new crypto exchange, a new, say, numberless financial product, or a new, kind of Earth observation satellite. How do you essentially create that product from a legal standpoint to mitigate risk? Or if you're looking at public policy, or you're looking at the contracts that kind of, needed to deploy this new technology, any of that, but only and only for the technology and innovation industry. So the USP is that we are in the weeds on, what's going on in the tech sectors. Where is the cryptocurrency industry at today? What is it likely to shape up from a policy standpoint 5 years down? We are talking to industry associations, the regulators, the industry, the academia. So very, very entrenched in these kind of tech sectors. Been a lovely journey. I think we've created a lot of impact, like even in the crypto industries, set up a number of exchanges from scratch.
You guys set up CoinEx, which exchanges are public in a sense that you've helped set up?
We worked with a large number of exchanges. We set up, CoinEx was the first exchange that we set up, right? And it was the kind of the multi-currency exchange. At that time, it was still predominantly Bitcoin only, and CoinEx kind of brought in multiple currencies. And what we helped essentially, I think the key function that we helped with was like in early 2017, it was becoming clearer that this industry cannot continue to fly under the radar. I mean, there is, while the RBI has still not exactly woken up to the kind of, to the beast that blockchain and cryptocurrency was going to be. But it was evident that there would be a number of stakeholder concerns, right? I mean, whether from a investor protection point of view, whether from a KYC point of view, etc. And so what we essentially came in and helped out these exchanges, apart from the structuring bit, right? How do you structure it within the confines of the law? It was to design robust self-regulatory practices very, very early on, right? So right from the processes deployed to do your KYC, the processes deployed to ensure data protection, grievance redressal, etc., the codes of practice to determine a transaction that is looking suspicious, and then what do you do with it? And I think these practices, which eventually started becoming, more and more rampant. And I mean, ZebPay again was a key player that kind of adopted to some of these practices very early on. But I'm very proud of the fact that, there was a point in time when a number of exchanges that started to spring up in 2017 actually had the very same terms of use and privacy policy that we would drafted for CoinEx. In fact, a potential client we were talking to actually spoke to me and said, hey, listen, great work you guys are doing, but tell me, do I really need to pay you for this? Can I just not go and cut, copy, and paste from what CoinEx has done? I did not have an answer for that, because obviously, I mean, that's a kind of a short-term view to things. But the point was that it was also heartening to see that, what you've done, and all these things got tested in the court, right? I mean, ultimately, when you were before the Supreme Court, the fact that you had anticipated these things, you had built protections for all of this, that you were able to check against all kinds of scrupulous activity, I think that definitely went a long way in making sure that we had a favorable outcome at the end of that 2.5-year battle in the Supreme Court. So I think meaningful, kind of impact, and very, very, very happy that we had a small role to play in that, right? And all the exchanges, right? I mean, like ZebPay and CoinEx and have preempted some.
It was so interesting. The landscape has changed quite a bit in the past 3, 4, 5 years. It definitely, like, a lot of the early exchanges, a lot of them which have now, has gone under, were crucial in a sense for the current landscape to exist. ZebPay, Unicoin, CoinEx, and those guys were crucial. Another good question is, I know CoinEx kind of shut down. They kind of moved over to doing a more fintech company, but like, did you guys have to help? Did you guys help on the legal aspect of kind of that returning back the funds and winding up as well?
For the exchanges?
Yeah.
No, very much. I think so a bunch of things, right? I mean, one was so I think the entire journey of working with the exchanges has been, every year has been a new year, right? In the sense that the nature of work you've been doing. So in 2017, you were setting up exchanges, right? Because everybody wanted to set up a new exchange. You were setting up good practices. Then you came about to a phase when there was this, because the way the industry was shaping up, the sheer volumes, you had consumer grievances, you had consumer litigation, you had frauds, you had technical glitches, and you were solving for all of this and then building your protections to avoid some of this. Then came the ban, right? And after the ban, you were restructuring the exchanges so that they could operate despite the ban. So we set up.
So there's a lot of like, how do we do this?
Right? Yeah, we set up some of the first peer-to-peer exchanges, for example. Then, to answer your question, a lot of these exchanges were pivoting or moving out of the country, right? So we helped them globalize. We helped them move their businesses outside to, say, to a Singapore, Estonia, Malta, wherever, doing the entire jurisdiction landscaping. What is a good structure? What is a good country to go to? And help them from that perspective. How do you wind up and set up a new business? So absolutely. Then came, of course, the litigation was a big piece, right? Then the litigation got, you had a favorable outcome. So the next frantic year was to set up exchanges again, but this time being very, very mindful that the law could change anytime. So you were setting up structures which anticipated a change in law.
Where do you think, if you had to predict where you think where it's going to go, what do you think is going to happen with the new law?
So Rahul, honestly, I don't want to hazard a guess here. I mean, it's, I do sincerely hope that the law accounts for, the kind of developments that are taking place in this industry, the potential that this industry holds, and provides. I mean, of course, there are larger stakeholder concerns which need to be addressed.
Yeah.
But a law that addresses these concerns, while providing the right kind of space for innovation, ongoing and new innovation in the space, is very important, right? And the right regulatory approach, a light touch regulatory approach that can kind of provides agility or flexibility for new developments in the technology, for new developments in the industry. I think that's very important, and I hope that that kind of seeps into the thinking of the regulator. Now, honestly, in the last 2 months, ever since the news came out, that there is a likely ban on the annual, I think already a lot of conversations have been had with the government. We've also been, engaging with various stakeholders and talking about why a complete ban is a bad idea and how can we, essentially have a law that addresses both, both concerns, right? And I think to a certain extent, these conversations have led to some kind of, rethinking on the front. So I'm hopeful that the law, takes, kind of addresses, provides the right balance, basically.
I'm also hopeful. So that's what I think happens. So a couple things, and then I love if you have questions for me, but I loved your TED talk about contracts. And for anybody who's watching this, if you haven't seen that, you should go watch that. It's a great talk. And I was going to show you, what's the shortest contract that you've ever done?
We've done half-page contracts as well, but it's not just so much about short or long. I think it is about how can you, see in certain contracts, there is just so much to say. There's a lot to say sometimes. So it is not about how short you can make it, but can you essentially design the contract for its intended user? So for example, if I'm talking to blockchain and talking about blockchain and cryptocurrency, I will say it differently when I'm talking to the CEO of ZebPay than when I'm talking about it to a judge in the Supreme Court who is, probably does not even, type, who don't even type their own documents themselves because they have, they probably use a typist or a stenographer for that, right? And it may not be as much in tune with this technology. So you have to design every communication depending on your user. And my point is that contracts are also nothing but communication, right? I mean, essentially, a contract, legally speaking, is a meeting of minds to make sure that I and Rahul are on the same page, which means that Rahul should understand what I'm saying. And so that communication should be designed for that person.
Yeah, it's like it's a user interface. It's a UI UX issue.
It is a UI UX problem, absolutely, right? And for that reason, you need to work with designers and UX folks and product designers when you're designing a contract. I mean, why should it be any different?
No, I'm an attorney. I loved, contracts. Same thing. So a lot of people don't realize, they look at, like some huge M&A deal, and you'll read a big stack of papers. I'm going to show you something which no one's really seen other than us, but this is, I don't know, right here, you'll see it. Like right here, it's the shortest contract we've ever done. It's not a post-it, right?
Wow. Okay.
To give you the crazy thing is, this is when we sold our company to Dr. Kiran Patel, and it became Freedom Health. This is actually original. I have it because I was the attorney for the family. But this is a 200 and this is actually a 200 plus $1 million post-it note, right? So here, and this is the shortest contract I've done. Has 4 points and has a signature and a date. That's it.
Wow.
On both sides.
Wow. I would actually quote you on the, because I mean, this is phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing.
When I acquired ZebPay, it was a one-pager. It's on a regular piece of paper, just a couple of small points. And several other companies, we've done that deal, right? And so it's a big lesson that obviously, is this the final? No, the final is maybe like just a couple pages longer than this, but it was just like, more formal and on legal. It was it. You just
we've done our contracts with literally all in infographics or all in caricature or all in audio. Again, depending on the end audience, right? If your audience, for example, doesn't know how to read and write, for instance, then the contract cannot be in English or in writing, right? So just keeping the end user in mind is the core idea.
And the really cool thing, the other thing, and then we'll go into love your questions, but that's what a smart contract is. If people say what's a really smart contract, it's really a UI UX. It's meaning people can talk about code, but it's where someone in the native language they speak and understand is easy to grasp, right? And what I love your phrase, you're on the same page, right? You don't say you're on the same pages, right? Because it's ideas just on one page and you're both on it. It's short and sweet. I'd love it. If you have any questions for me?
Looking at launching an NFT token and a platform for NFT trading. Is that right? Did I understand that?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would. I think this is a question that is on the minds of a lot of people who I talk to, but to some extent, even my mind. What do you think? Firstly, what do you think is the future of NFT 10 years hence? And maybe you can. I mean. The answer is, well, it will, maybe it's not even NFT. I mean, it could have transformed into something else because 10 years is a really long time. But what do you think? Where would
Sure. I think I probably have a minority position. I think NFTs are going to be bigger than fungible tokens. And here's the reason why. If you go look at the world is mostly, let's say, non-fungible. And for people who I love this saying. There's a great quote, on Twitter. I heard, whenever I hear non-fungible tokens, I think of like tokens that can't be made of mushrooms. And I'm like, that's pretty funny because it sounds like, fungi, right? But what fungible it really means is, can they be exchanged for something else, right? Are they the same? It's almost a commodity product, right? And so what I'd say is, gold and Bitcoin are fungible. I mean, an ounce of gold and one Bitcoin aren't drastically different. You can exchange them one for one. I mean, one Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin as one gold bar is worth one gold bar or one gold ounce. But the difference, a non-fungible thing is let's talk about even, let's say, an iPhone, right? My iPhone, even though it looks exactly like your iPhone, right? They're vastly different because the photos on my iPhone are different, right? What's in my iPhone is different, right? And that's where the nuance is. So that what the really cool thing about the world is most of the world is actually non-fungible. And what that means is as the world moves to the blockchain, yes, some things will be uniform, right? Things like currencies, or commodities, crypto commodities, but most of the things will not. And over the next 10 years, I think the value on the blockchain that's on the non-fungible space is going to be actually much, much larger than in the fungible space. And and what do I mean by this? So these are things that, like, let's talk about directly, things from, like, art. But people look at the art ones, but, like, it's not just that, it's stocks, right? And the reason why I say why stock is right now, most stock is, like, you have the same class. What I think is going to happen is there's going to be lots of different classes of stock, lots of different utilities of stock. There's also things like, insurance and let's say your driver's license. Those are all, like, say, it could be non-fungible tokens. Tickets, I'll give you, for example, is actually a really hilarious Twitter post about Saturday Night Live just came out with one, but, like, about what is a non-fungible token. But at the end of the song, they talk about how you can use it for getting as a ticket to get into an event, and that's an NFT, right? That's not a fungible token. So I think NFTs are going to be way bigger. So that's why we're very early stage, but we're exploring it right now. Right? Well, what do you think? I don't know what you think about NFTs or tokens.
No, So there's a whole bunch of things here, right? I mean, thanks for that explanation. I think so I can certainly visualize how NFTs can fundamentally disrupt a lot of industries today, the economics of a number of industries. Take, for example, I mean, of course, enough people have talked about it, but any creative industry, right, where I essentially rely on a number of intermediaries today to control the flow of my content, right, to disseminate my
song. Let's use a song in this.
Right, of course. I can reach out to the end consumer myself. I can make sure that it is exclusive, it is limited in supply, that the payment is kind of automated and whatnot, right? So all of that, of course. But I'm more. I mean, these are use cases which are already visible, right? We can. I mean, I can visualize this happening, if not today, as efficiently or effectively, maybe 2 years hence. But what is it that we still can't really see, right? I mean, say those use cases.
What are the unknown unknowns? And so I want to say what's really interesting is that, I mean, that is the case. I mean, like, there's an evolution of, see, when we were kids, I mean, you sound close to my age, like, music online was pirated, right? So you had Napster and stuff like that. And then a lot of people are like, wow, this is awesome. Like, why would I ever pay for, music, right? And then there was innovation, like Apple came up with the iTunes store and it got better, right? And so now a big question is, why would you pay for some, blockchain music, right? I don't know what it is yet, but someone's going to come out with a really nice interface or use case on why you should do it. I think what will likely happen is there'll be some sort of economic incentive built in, right? And so there'll be some sort of, not just, maybe like early fans will maybe get better economics than later fans, right, in a sense. And maybe if you buy an NFT for a song, maybe you would not get all of the share, but imagine that song's then licensed in a Bollywood movie. You would somehow get some sort of flow through economics in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right? In fact, you know what? So in fact, I was just talking to somebody who's trying to curate, essentially take artisans who make handicrafts in India to their end consumers, and we were just discussing about how NFTs could essentially, it's one thing to have the artifact, which is a physical object, but the story behind that object, right? Who crafted it and their story and what inspired them to make this and what's the 100-year story to this object. That could really be a digital asset, right? And so you club the physical with the digital, and that could be beautiful, right? And
exactly. So I'm going to talk about, we're still kind of working on the deal, but luckily being a CEO, I can bypass my own rules. There's a really cool company we're working on right now, it's a company called Yat. And if you go to y.at, you'll see it. And it's a phenomenal company, which does, it's kind of like, it's an NFT, which you have an emoji username. And what's really cool is the CEO is an Indian American who lives in the US, and they're blowing up. Like, they've already sold quite a bit. And what is an emoji username? It's this: is that a lot of people, if yours is, Anirudh at Harvard.edu or something like that, right? It's in the traditional format of, say, an English character, but you got to realize a lot of people don't speak English, right? Mm-hmm. And if you speak Hindi or Mandarin or Spanish, and so what they've done is emojis are like used by 6 billion people, roughly 5 billion people in the world. Basically, if you're using a smartphone now, you have an emoji a keyboard on there, and they're building basically emoji into a NFT, which would then be a username. For example, you would be, whatever you love. It could be, moon, it could be a rocket ship, it could be, a contract or whatever. And what's amazing is that that's the type of stuff which are like where I think people have value. And the reason I bring up this thing is to talk about the story. And what you can do is, in a really short format, you can put a story into an NFT. And I'll give you an example. With an emoji, one of my friends just bought one. He spent it's wild on this product. It's not even live yet, but it's actually a real product. He spent $400 on and I'll give you the down thumb, right? It was a rabbit, an emoji of a rabbit, and then a hole. And it's down the rabbit hole, right? And is it worth $400 or is it worth $4,000? I don't know. But then what happens is that emoji can now be used. Eventually, when the technology can be built, is you'll be able to text that emoji. You'll be able to put down the rabbit hole into your address bar. It'll go to your page. You'll be able to click on a link. It'll go to a page. It's like his version of the art. So what happens is this is the way we start building this up. Imagine that there's a music band that has that. You can tie all these things in together. So that's we're still in very, very early days of these things connecting in, but like I'm really excited where the stuff goes and how it all connects. So.
Oh, no, absolutely. We're very definitely. I mean, the future is going to be exciting, and I'm very happy that we have a ringside view of what's going on, and being part of it.
I love it. Well, I know this is an awesome conversation. Thanks for coming in and hanging out, getting up early. It's in the evening here, but thanks for hanging out, and would love to continue the conversation in the future. But thank you for joining us, and would love. So where can our audience find you? On your website or your Twitter handle or wherever?
Yeah, my name is Anirudh Rastogi. Just look me up. I think you'll find me on LinkedIn, and Twitter handle is Anirudh Rastogi. Not so active, but LinkedIn is where typically I'm able to to kind of touch base. And the firm's Ikigai Law. So if they were to search for www.ikigailaw.com, they'll get me.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks for joining us, and hope to meet you in person when I head out to India.
Absolutely, I look forward to that. This is a great conversation. Really enjoyed it, and thanks for the team to set this up.
Cheers. Thanks, Anurag.